it's Lindsay, and today I am bringing you some middle grade recommendations. So whether you're looking for a read for your middle grade age child or you just want something whimsical and magical yourself, then stay tuned. I have some great recommendations for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get the most obvious and most recommended out of the way first, and that is of course the Harry Potter series. Harry Potter is my top middle grade recommendation, not only because it's so amazing and I loved it as a child, but it is so immersive and easy to get into. I think that if you have a young kid who's not that big on reading, this is a great place to start because, you know, from the millennial generation that grew up with Harry Potter, this is what got us all to read. So, I mean, if statistics mean anything and you want your kid to read, get them Harry Potter. I have a couple editions, but I also wanted to go ahead and show the illustrated edition as well because I think this would be an easier way to introduce this to younger generations because it does have all of the pictures and illustrations that might make the transition from reader to non-reader easier, but just in general, like, who doesn't like to look at pictures, right? My next middle grade recommendation is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Now this book is a thicker book and it does follow a child, I believe, from the ages of 8 to 14. So if you do have a more mature or advanced reader, I think this would be a great book to pick up. This book follows our main character who lives in Germany during the time of World War II, and she is sent to live with a family because her mother is no longer able to take care of her. During this time, the Nazis are at full height and they are burning all sorts of books that are just considered contraband by the Nazi regime. Our main character Liesel loves literature and she uses those books and stories to help her family and herself and the young Jewish man that they are hiding in their basement through this really tough time. This book is an absolutely beautiful depiction of the power literature can have and what storytelling can do for humans in difficult times. It also portrays one of the most beautiful father-daughter relationships that I have ever read about. I still think about it to this day. I think it's definitely an important read and it can teach young readers about historical happenings in a fun and engaging way. It's definitely a little bit of a tearjerker though, so be prepared for that. The next recommendation I have is a series of unfortunate events. This series follows 3 siblings that are tossed from home to home after their parents die in a very unfortunate fire. All the while they are being hunted by the evil Count Olaf who wants nothing more to kill the orphans and to take their fortune. Now this book is told in one of the most engaging styles that I've ever read. The author, Lemony Snicket, which is actually a pseudonym, is basically begging you in every single book not to pick it up, not to read any farther, because the Baudelaires have already had to go through this horrible ordeal that he has to recount and he doesn't want you to go through it. So it really just gives you this fun, like, oh gosh, like this is so foreboding, like what's gonna happen? What happened to these poor kids? You just absolutely rip through these pages, and I know when you get into the later books like 5, 6, 7 and so on, and they introduce the mystery plotline, it's just incredibly addicting and I am still incredibly intrigued, so I highly recommend these. Next recommendation is The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle by A.B. This book is an oldie but a goodie. It came out in 1990, so it is one of the books that I read. I remember reading it specifically in 4th grade. This book follows a young girl who is on a transatlantic voyage, but when she gets on the boat that is taking her over to America, she finds out that the families that she's supposed to be traveling with have all canceled. And actually all of the passengers on this boat have canceled, and now she is the only non-crew member and woman on the ship. From there, this really intriguing mystery arises because, like, what happened? What's going on? There's mutiny. It kind of almost turns into like pirate sea voyage mystery book, and it is just incredibly enthralling. Charlotte is this really endearing main character. She wears lace gloves and she's prim and she's proper, but with all of the things that happen on the boat, she kind of has to change her ways and adapt to survive. I'll read you this little section on the back cover because I think it's really good. It says, "Not every 13-year-old girl is accused of murder, brought to trial, and found guilty. But I was just such a girl and my story is worth relating." It's so good. Like, please pick this up. It's super short. I know your kids would love it and I know you would love it. So read it. Speaking of mystery, my next recommendation is also by A.B. and it is The Man Who Misspoke. Now, if I thought that the Charlotte Doyle mystery was amazing, this one is like a complete step up, and this one is different because it is so creepy and dark and atmospheric for a middle grade. I loved it. So this book follows a little boy named Edmund who is very poor, and one day he wakes up and both his mother and his sister are gone. There are strange clues around the house and he doesn't know what to make of them. So he goes into to the village trying to find an adult who can help him lead him towards his family. Nobody is willing to help this poor little dirty street kid except a drunken man who goes by the name of Poe. Now Poe is economical, he's struggling himself, he doesn't really care about this kid, he just wants to be able to write a story that's gonna sell and really, you know, get him his next fix. Of course that's not like really sad on the page, but I mean us adults know. So Poe agrees to help Edmund in hopes that this has a really great mystery that he can write down and sell. Again, it's just creepy, incredibly atmospheric. I remember it just getting kind of like chills when I was reading this as a kid because it almost makes you feel like this is a ghost story. It's not, it's completely historical fiction, but there's almost like this, I don't even know, this uncanny otherness about the setting that just, it really kind of creeps you out. And I don't think it's scary, but it is incredibly immersive in that way. So I do recommend this if you've got a kid that likes historical fiction, mystery, and is okay with a little bit of a creep factor. I definitely recommend this. The next book I have to recommend to you is one that I just found this year and I absolutely fell in love with, and that is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This book follows our main character Morgan Crow, who is born on the unluckiest day of the year, and because of this she is blamed for every bad thing that happened in her town. From a stubbed toe to a dead cow, it's all her fault. But probably the most unlucky thing about Morgan is she was born on that unlucky day, eventide, and because of that she is set to die on her 11th birthday. While she is awaiting her terrible fate, a strange and mysterious and magical figure comes and whisks her off to Nevermore, a land where she is given the opportunity to go through these trials in order to get involved in this mysterious society. This book is so incredibly whimsical and fun and kind of kooky and wacky. It really reminds me a lot of Harry Potter and A Series of Unfortunate Events if they were combined together and put in this amazing world. It takes place in this magical hotel that transforms and changes every day. It has a huge talking super sassy cat named Fernesta, who is actually the housekeeper of this hotel, and there's just magical trials and tests that really remind me of some of the things that Harry Potter went through in the first few years at Hogwarts, and it's such a good time. I highly recommend this one. The next recommendation I have for you would be the perfect Halloween read, and that is The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexander Bracken. So this book is about a young boy who finds out that his family's actually cursed and there is a demon living inside him. So that's super fun. I know when some people are thinking like, oh, I don't want my kids reading books about demons. It's not like that. It's like a little wolf's thing. Like I feel like I have to throw that out there. This isn't like demonic or like creepy in any sort of way. It's super fun and it reminds me a lot of like Halloween Town or Hocus Pocus. It just has a really strong small town Salem vibe that I loved. The writing is super atmospheric and witty. The book itself is just stunning and I really enjoyed Prosper as a character. He's kind of shy and deals a lot with anxiety, so that was really interesting to see in a middle grade book. And I think if you have a child who deals with those things, him or herself, or maybe you like to have them be experienced to those type of things, I think this is a really great book to start. It's fun, it's kind of dark, it's atmospheric and witty, and I highly recommend it. Next recommendation I have for you guys is The Wishing Spell by Chris Colfer. Now, I just read this book last month and it was so much fun. It's just about these two kids that find a magical book, they get sucked in, and they're stuck in this fairy tale land. It has every single story that you grew up hearing as a kid, and all of the characters are kind of nuanced and a little bit different and a little bit more sassy, and the two main characters themselves are just really endearing and fun to read through. It is a thicker book, but I think it really does fly by because you are having so much fun when you read. This is an ongoing series right now. I think there's like maybe 6 books out already, which I think is so exciting because I think of the next generation and how like this is kind of like their Harry Potter. Like they get a new one each year and they grow up with it, and that just makes me so happy. So I highly recommend these. These are super fun. I think that where some of the books I recommended would be a little bit more advanced for some younger readers, I think that children as young as like 7, 8, 9 could get into this and really enjoy it. And the last recommendation I have for you guys is Aru Shah and the End of Time by Roshani Chakshi. This book follows our main character Aru, who kind of gets in trouble because she tells a lot of little white lies. One of these little white lies turns into a big problem when she awakens the Indian god of destruction, and his job is to end the world and start the apocalypse. books, and Aru and some friends have to go to the ends of the earth basically to save the world. This book is really great. It's really witty and it's fast-paced and it's fun, and not only was I having a good time, I was actually learning a lot about Indian mythology. It's not something that I was ever taught a lot about in school, so it was really great to read about that and just broaden my perspective in general. It was great. I do want to take a second just to talk about the fact that there is a little brown girl on the cover, which I think is so incredibly important to have. We don't have enough of this in middle grade especially, but I'm just so happy that Rick Riordan Presents is starting to do this wonderful thing where they take unique and ethnic voices and tell their stories. So that way children who look like Aru can read stories about themselves. And I love that. I think that's so incredibly important, and I highly recommend it. So those are all of my middle grade reads. I hope you guys read and enjoy them, and definitely let me know in the comments if you do. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!